Hello and welcome to our May Economic Update. I'm Michael Watson, Head of Distribution Asia Pacific with La Trobe Financial. We start with a look at the Australian macroeconomic environment. Our economist forecast table demonstrates an economy with strong forecasted results across a range of data points. Confidence is a key driver of outcomes. Despite consensus for robust economic outcomes, consumer confidence is taking a big hit right now. The May Commonwealth Bank Consumer Confidence Survey showed sentiment falling back to COVID lockdown levels. Key drivers of falling consumer confidence are the rising cost of living pressures and the prospect of higher mortgage repayments on the back of interest rate increases. Right now, people are still spending, with unemployment at 3.9%, the lowest since August 1974. Consumer spending should be high. Confidence, or the lack thereof, will therefore have a big role to play in how the economy tracks forward from this moment. Of course, the big topics in the economy right now are inflation and interest rates. Investors are pondering whether the current jump in inflation numbers lets the inflation genie out of the bottle. A classical notion of inflation is the demand pull model, where wage growth and increasing consumption drives up inflation. In this scenario, a movement upwards in interest rates reduces disposable incomes, decreases consumption, and controls inflation. Here in 2022, we have primarily cost push inflation, with prices pushed up on the supply side. Inflation is running ahead of wages growth, and supply side costs of fuel, transport, housing, and education are driving overall inflation numbers. With non-discretionary items driving inflation numbers, increasing interest rates will have less of an impact in controlling inflation. The recent headline inflation rate of 5.1% recorded in May is not far below the RBA forecast peak of 6%, which it expects in December 2022. After that peak, it anticipates inflation will return to 3.1% by December 2023. How accurate these forecasts are and how successful monetary policy can be in addressing inflation remains to be seen. A final note on inflation is that it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like consumer confidence, the very prospect of inflation feeds into the inflationary cycle, with a tendency throughout the market to increase prices to keep up ahead of actual upwards movements. Which brings us to interest rates, the central banker's tool of choice for controlling inflation. When the US Federal Reserve hiked rates by 25 basis points in its March meeting, it sent a signal to markets that its view on combating inflation was through rates increases. Of course, US inflation numbers recently reached 8.5%, much higher than here in Australia. In response to local inflation numbers, our Reserve Bank, which had been maintaining a cautious, patient approach, increased rates in its May meeting by 25 basis points. While it acknowledges further increases in rates are inevitable, its statement on monetary policy for May 2022 also pointed to a resilient domestic economy marked by strong employment numbers, elevated household savings, increased prices of commodities, and higher government tax revenue. Noting that confidence is on such a knife's edge right now, the Reserve Bank may get plenty of bang for its buck out of some good old-fashioned jawboning and keeping its powder dry for as long as possible. With low wages growth, the mere talk of interest rate increases may well already be affecting economic outcomes, and that could mitigate the extent to which rates have to actually be increased. Thank you for taking the time to watch our economic update. If you have any queries, please contact our asset management team on 1800 818 818.